Hi, and welcome to another episode of Spoiler Corner with Harrison, the Booze and Buffy companion show, where I, Harrison, will be talking about all the spoilery things that I cannot talk about during our regular episode since we are a spoiler-free podcast. So this week I'm going to be talking about Season 1, Episode 10, Nightmares. There's not a huge amount of foreshadowing or anything this week, but I do have a couple things I wanted to talk about. I mentioned in our regular episode how I found the fears in this episode to be kind of shallow, very surfacey, outside of Giles and Buffy. What I didn't say, was due to it being a very minor spoiler for the next episode, was how frustrated I am by the fears we see out of Cordelia. At this point, Cordelia is the least developed of our regular cast, and even some recurring cast members have received more development than Cordelia at this point. So it's really frustrating to see a really, really surface, shallow fear out of her, especially when in the next episode she's going to get a lot more development as a character. And I think this could have been an opportunity to showcase that a little before we got the full thing. I think the season 4 episode, Fear Itself, takes this same idea of people's fears manifesting themselves, but does it a lot better. This is a fun episode, but we don't learn a lot about our characters, whereas I feel like Fear Itself really takes some time to delve into their psyches, and the fears are much more personal and I think significant in that episode. This is also the first episode where we see Buffy's dad, who will become a very, very minor recurring character. He has, I believe, one more appearance in season 2, and then every appearance he has after that, which off the top of my head is just 2 more, aren't even real appearances. They are they're hallucinations by Buffy. I've always found the relationship with Buffy and her father to be kind of a missed opportunity for the series. He doesn't get a lot of development as a character himself, but we kind of hear some unflattering things from Buffy later, particularly in the season 5 arc where Joyce is sick and eventually passes. He's still completely absent from Buffy and Dawn's life at that point. I haven't personally read a lot of the comic continuations, but in kind of doing some research, I have seen that apparently there is an issue where Buffy and, by extension, Dawn kind of deal with some of the issues brought on by their father and his kind of lack of presence in their life. And I do wish that was something the show had maybe explored a little more. But of course, Buffy's absent father is necessary for the development of the relationship that Buffy and Giles will develop. The last thing I wanted to discuss was something that doesn't happen in this series, that I also believe does happen in the comic books, but is kind of alluded to here, is the idea of a Slayer becoming a vampire. I've always thought that would be such a cool thing for the show to have explored. Not necessarily Buffy becoming a vampire, but just any Slayer. Never goes there. I read somewhere, and I don't know how true this was, that the main villain of the season 4 premiere Sunday, or maybe her name was Friday. It's a day of the week, I can't remember. But I read somewhere that originally that character was supposed to be a Slayer who had become a vampire. I don't know how true that is, but I think it would have been a really cool thing to have seen on screen. So those are my thoughts this week. We will be back next week with episode 11, Out of Mind, Out of Sight. See you then. Bye.